Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the Chop It Up Gaming podcast. We are two mates who like to chop it up and talk gaming way too much. My name is Josh,
And I'm Mark.
and today we have a very special episode because we have a guest. Guest, say hello.
Hello everyone. Happy to
What's your
be
name?
here. My name's James. I'm good friends with Josh and Mark, and they have wonderfully extended the invite for this episode in particular, just to discuss. I'll let you guys introduce the topic, but happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so today's a very exciting episode because for a very long time, Mark has been telling me that I have to play this little indie game called Bloodborne. So much so that in our Facebook chat, that's been my nickname has been. Oh no, your nickname has been Play Bloodborne
You always get
for
reminded.
about 3 or 4 years to try and convince me to eventually play Bloodborne. So I finally played Bloodborne after about 5 playthroughs of Elden Ring, and today we're going to talk all about it. And James, why did we bring you in?
Because I love From Software as much as you guys, and I bloody love Bloodborne, and I'm just happy to be a part of here. I think you guys asked me to introduce myself by my credentials. All I'll say is I've platinumed it. I haven't done a Blood
Yeah.
Level 4 run.
Good.
But so is Mark, by the way. Mark did it first, and he's yeah. But
But you've
uh,
platinumed all the Souls games except for Demon Souls, right?
yes, I'd that's next up on the list. Out of just sheer love for them all, I mean, I have. It's made me fall back in love with gaming because they're the just the I reckon pinnacle of exactly the experience that you want. And yeah, I just need to do a Blood Level 4 run, and then I'll be legit. Then you can have me back.
No, I think you're our residential FromSoft expert at this point, especially when it
Yeah.
comes to the lore. I'm really excited to hear your breakdown of some of the lore aspects of Bloodborne because me, even though I've platinumed it, I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert or know too much about it. So very keen to hear your thoughts on this episode.
I'll be happy to provide. But then again, I'm nowhere near as I'm not an expert, but it's the love of the game. I don't know. But yeah, just
Let's
happy
get
to
into
discuss.
it. Yep.
Yeah.
You're definitely the expert. We went on a road trip and you told me about the lore of Dark Souls for like 3 hours, so it's pretty good.
I'm happy that we're still friends then, mate. I
Mate,
apologize in
that
hindsight.
was a great car ride.
For the context, Mark, I was trying to convince him to play the Ring City DLC, and I was just explaining the entire build up to the Slave Knight Gale fight, which is just so ridiculously lame, but I was just so excited. Anyway.
Seems like the perfect episode for you then.
Oh my god. Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah, you did. That was before I played Dark Souls 3, and I feel like you convinced me on it pretty well. And then I played it, and I was like, nah, thumbs down.
No,
I'm kidding. It's okay.
no, we're saving this for another. We're not getting into this now. We're saving it for another episode.
We can do some rankings at the end of this one.
Yeah, we sure can.
Yeah, we'll leave it at the end. Actually, I'm very curious whether at the end of this conversation, whether my thoughts on Bloodborne will change or not, because it all exists in my head right now. But we'll just let it flow.
How many times have you played it?
I'm on my 5th playthrough now.
Of Bloodborne.
Yeah, I did
Oh my god.
first playthrough with a threaded cane because I got too shy to try anything else, and then did 2 more just casual playthroughs, like trying out strength, and then did my platinum run from the beginning, and then now just on like a random casual one. It's a great game to play casually versus the other ones, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm on my
Yeah.
fourth playthrough. I haven't been
Mm.
actively replaying it, but hearing Josh talk about it and play it again, and obviously we did our little challenge runs as well. Lit a
Yeah.
fire under my stomach, but I'm just waiting for that PC remaster to come through one day.
Yeah.
One day.
Oh, it just there's so much potential. Just
There
those
is
little.
so much. Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
even if we never get that, at least it'll be pretty soon. You'll be able to emulate it. It seems.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's jump into it. I want to start right from the beginning of the game, and at least start by maybe just talking through like how my kind of playthrough went, we'll probably get really derailed and just go on a tangent. I'm completely fine with that. But let's start right at the beginning of the game, and the game starts where all great games do start, which is character creator. And I was really happy because I made my character look like Timothy Chalamet by accident. I called him Timothy, and he felt like he really fit in with the game. You know.
Yeah, I agree. I actually made mine look like Timothy Chalamet, but named him Timothy. So actually got a character with
What?
Bloodborne.
You can't say my name in the podcast.
Okay, cut. All right. We're
That'll be
cutting.
bleep.
We're cutting it.
No, keep rolling. We'll just bleep it. We'll just bleep it.
Yeah,
Cut that.
that's fine, that's fine.
Cut that.
Cut that. Anyway, so yep. Okay, we are
I
back.
think the character creation of Bloodborne is the worst looking out of any Souls game. I'm gonna say that.
Oh, it is. It actually is awful looking. Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, it looks pretty
Like-
potato.
That first avatar that pops up, you're just like, what? This game is gonna look terrible. Like that first dude, he looks like a pencil.
Is it like doesn't he have that receding like haircut as well?
Yeah,
Yeah, he does.
it
But
is
it
just
looks-
so different to what you get it visually.
It looks like some modern office man.
Yep.
Like, why is he in Bloodborne? Why is that the default?
Which is
Michael from
crazy.
accounting.
Yeah, it's crazy because the fashion in Bloodborne is probably the best in the series, apart from like maybe Dark Souls 2
Yeah.
on take. Um, so it's crazy that the character creation is the way it is. Because
No, it's great. It's great. You
well,
can
I-
make Timothy Chalamet. It's great.
Well, I heard that like they're saying Bloodborne's like one of the best fashion souls, but I found that starting outfit, it's not like the overalls, but the hunter. I don't know the actual name of the starting outfit with the pinstripe and the straps.
yeah,
That
yeah.
also looked really lame. I did not like that at all.
Because the
Yeah.
game's got to start you off as a dweeb so that you can earn
Just-
like feeling cool.
Yeah, but you get
Yeah,
you
you-
get the hunter garb very, very soon, which is the one you can see on
Yeah,
screen.
well,
You got to earn it. You got to earn it.
You do have to earn it. Yep.
Well-
that's in the sewers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to start by talking about starting out in Central Yarnum. I think Central Yarnum is such a great starting area. I actually reckon it's probably the best starting area of any of the Souls games I've played. I feel like as soon as you start the game, it just stands out with like the atmosphere of it. Like it's so
Yeah.
it's so
Easily.
creepy. Like instantly you just hear like screeching. It's like it's sunset. And everything's just like trying to jump out at you, and like the villagers and stuff with their pitchforks are like yelling at you. I don't know. I think it really sets the tone pretty strong.
Oh, I completely agree. I think from like an atmosphere point of view, it's one of the most intimidating starts. I think like as you climb the ladder,
Yeah.
you hear the screech from the cleric beast, and that's kind of like a foreshadowing to what you're gonna face and the horrors that await you. Yeah, as you said,
Yeah.
it completely sets the tone.
The enemies as well. I think it was the first game in the series that they would be speaking as well. They'd say, get away, foul beast.
Yeah.
It just kind of puts this like you put you on edge almost because you just have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, and that's something I wanted to talk about is that like I feel like when you start the game, I feel like I guess like most Souls games, but you really feel like you just dropped in this world with no idea of what's going on, and like very quickly it's apparent that like something very messed up is happening. So you've got all these people like roaming around, and they look like they're kind of half dead, like not dead, but like they're just in this weird like kind of state, like they're losing their minds.
Scourge, I think they call it the beastly scourge.
Yeah, and that's the thing that really stood out to me with Bloodborne is I felt more than any other Souls game, like I had a good idea of what was going on in the sense that I was able to pick up on the vibes of the places and kind of understand bits and pieces and put them together. But not to say that I like instantly understood all the lore, but it's just like you get these feelings of what's happening. So you're dropped in, you're told that you have to hunt beasts, and you get this idea that this town, something really wrong has happened, and all the villagers, all the people are turning into beasts for some reason, right?
And that's exactly where they want you to be. They want you are
Yeah.
feeling exactly what is expected of you at that point in time. You're not
Yeah.
meant to be like understanding what's going on. It's almost like you're kind of piecing the pieces of the puzzle as you go.
Yeah, Yeah, I feel like just Bloodborne does a really good job of it, and maybe that's because I was gonna say the story's more simple, but it probably isn't because there's a lot of different factions in it. Um, but it's I don't know, it's less like kind of it's not a high fantasy story like Elden Ring with all this like kind of political elements, all these like factions fighting each other. It's more this just really disturbed kind of world, and you're just placed in it, and you kind of as you go, you start to uncover more of what got you there.
I think I would say maybe this is a weird thing to say, but in terms of the story and understanding what's going on, I think it's one of the more approachable FromSoft games, if you would agree on that point, where it's not so much more about reading item descriptions to understand what's going on, but you can kind of just by talking to the NPCs, by kind of gauging the vibe of the world, the enemies, that sort of thing. Yeah, as you
Yep.
said, it's very easy to kind of on a high level, I guess, grasp what your role in the world is.
Well, that's almost where like Elden Ring falls a bit short because there is so much to the story that for a first time player, like
It's too much.
there's no way. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then with Bloodborne, it's just that a bit more streamlined, and it like acknowledges your ability to learn things as you go. So it's not like holding your hand, but it's also just like presenting things in a very organic way, which just really help in kind of painting that picture for you.
Yeah, I think in terms from that point of view, I think Bloodborne is probably the high point in the series, where it probably exists in a happy medium between something like Elden Ring or Dark Souls and Sekiro, where Sekiro is as streamlined as you can get for a FromSoft game, and I think Bloodborne exists within that happy medium.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I think
well.
yeah. So I mean, I think maybe Mark, you kind of hit the nail on the head in that Bloodborne maybe more than the others. You feel like you piece a lot of the story together just through the environmental storytelling.
Yeah,
And not to say that's not in the other games as well, but so much of the story is like it's just there in the vibes of the world and
yeah,
the things that you see around you and the way that the enemies move and react and things like that. So it's really and not that you can actually piece together the complex parts of the story, like the different factions and things like that. You can't piece that together from the environment alone. You do need the item descriptions, but just like the sense of like kind of understanding the big picture of how things kind of got to the place that they are, it seems like it's a bit easier to piece together just from the environments.
yeah. Completely agree.
And you're
Yeah,
told this whole time about the healing church, and from the different NPCs you speak to have different sort of like perspectives towards it, and it's made like that is the leading faction at least in Central Yarnum, and you don't you have an idea of it, but then you also have no idea what it is, and then everything around kind of just builds up to. I mean, then you get to the cathedral ward and you kind of understand what's going on. But yeah. And then
yeah,
that's where it gets really in the lore sort of side of it.
yeah. No, I want to get there later. I just want to talk a bit more about the beginning of the game. I think the other thing that really stands out in Central Yarnum is the level design. Um, I was actually really surprised by how
Solid.
good it was. I didn't realize that this game had it does have pretty interconnected level design, in my opinion, like quite close to how Dark Souls 1 was designed.
Mm,
Easily. No, I thought Dark Souls 1, yeah, was the pinnacle of it, but I was playing yesterday, just running through, and I got to the woods, and I completely forgot about that shortcut that leads you back directly straight into Yashevska's clinic.
yeah,
It's like,
yeah. That's to get the Cain's summons, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that is so far away from Yashevska's, but it loops you back around perfectly. It's just classic DS1.
I
Yeah,
would in terms
you can
of
mark.
it being so in terms of it being like DS1, I wouldn't say that it's quite like DS1 just because I found that getting shortcuts back to um, the filing shrine in DS1 was kind of a relief. So when you're going through like Blighttown and you get that shortcut back into filing shrine, and then you've got that access from that point. It's sort of a relief, and you're in a
Yeah.
really oppressive world, and that's just kind of your, you know, shining light or hope, I guess, once you get back to that. I think in Bloodborne, although the levels are interconnected, the stakes aren't as high as they were in DS1 because I think DS1's level design is actually very oppressive in a way, but in a good way, that is. That when you get
Mhm.
those shortcuts, it's like you really, really needed that. Versus in
I
Bloodborne,
think
where it's like, oh, this is a really unique way to interconnect the worlds. It makes the world feel more lived in and makes it feel like one complete world, unlike DS3 or DS2 in that sense. But yeah, I would say that's a key difference.
what Josh was saying though was one of the shortfalls of Bloodborne was, and you're saying that Fireleaf Shrine was the center of all that relief in DS1. The Hunter's Nightmare is a completely separate area.
Yeah, actually, I would say like the Fire League Shrine in Bloodborne is probably the Cathedral Ward.
Yeah.
Like as in everything kind of links from that little hub area. But yeah, yeah, I don't know if it's exactly like DS1, but I see your point in that it's probably the most interconnected world um, from all the FromSoft games that we've seen apart from DS1.
But I agree with you. I agree with you that it doesn't hold that same relief though,
Yeah, yeah,
because it's the hub. The Cathedral Ward isn't the hub. It's not where you. It's like the Hunter's Nightmare is, and that it's separate. The fact that it's
yeah, yeah,
separate from
yeah, yeah.
kind of disconnects it a bit. But then that I don't know. That's just maybe that's what they were trying to go for, but it's not as yeah. You don't get the same relief.
Yeah.
But I do find that I was pretty relieved, at least in Central. I think so. There's a few shortcuts in Central Yarnum. Is that right? They help you,
Yeah,
like gates you can open and things like. Yeah, there are.
yeah,
Three or
Um,
four.
yeah,
I found those a big relief because one thing I found in Bloodborne is there's a lot less checkpoints. Like Dark Souls, you have bonfires. In this game, you have the lanterns, right? And I feel like they're pretty well spread out. I mean, there's only one in Central Yarnum, so every time you get a checkpoint after some pretty long kind of exploration, or sorry, you get a shortcut. It does feel like, oh, thank God, like I can get back to where I was way quicker. I don't know if that was just me, but I
Oh,
actually, I well,
that's true. Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure.
yeah, in general, I actually found Central Yarnum, like I found the opening of the game to be the most difficult part of it. I guess number one because you're getting used to that different combat where you're dodging around and you kind of being aggressive to get your health back, which is quite different to the other Souls games. But
Yeah.
also, yeah, I just found that element of you Central Yarnum's like this massive area, and you have to explore pretty deep in it. Um, you got the sewer area, like you can go pretty deep in that whole thing, and you don't have any checkpoints anywhere. And the only way to like go level up and keep your souls or keep your what they call blood echoes. You've got to go back to that lantern at the start. I don't know. I thought Central Yarnum was pretty punishing, and then from there the game actually got easier.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think a lot of it has to do with the volume of enemies as well in that little part of Central Yarnum. It can get very, very intimidating. And then obviously there's no way to level up until you meet your first boss. And
Yeah,
it's a
that's the other
long run
part.
back. Yeah, so a lot of it it's actually very punishing at the beginning, but again, a lot of it is a byproduct of it being a completely new game. I'm sure if you replayed it now, you'd like completely breeze through
That's true.
Central Yarnum. Uh,
It
Yeah,
would be easier knowing where things are.
I was thinking about it yesterday as well. Like the fact that there is only, say, in Central Island, there's one lantern that keeps looping back. It encourages you to take your time and slow things down when,
Yeah,
and just because rushing through those areas is infinitely more difficult than when you like go. Say, for example, you go through your first time, you take your time, and you die to someone, and you're just trying to rush back to your echoes. It is so much more daunting and frustrating trying to run around everyone
yeah.
that I feel like that's what it wants you to do is to take your time, slow things down, take your enemies on one by one, which is where this fast and aggressive combat shines.
Well, I think the other part of that as well is some of the other design choices in the game lead to that. For example, the consumable healing items, right? I don't think you can really, as you said, you can't really afford to rush by all the enemies because you probably need to kill them to get uh, healing items of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to say is that also makes the early game more punishing in the fact that you don't have that big stock of blood vials built up yet.
Yeah, to be clear, I'm not really a fan of that choice, but I'm
It's
possibly a
I think
reason
it's
why they did it.
it's a different approach. I think they're trying to take. It's good having 20. I think when you get to a point enough where you can just have a good supply of it. I think that's what they wanted. They didn't want you to have too much of a limited supply. But then for a first time player, it is so hard to wrap your head around when on top of everything going on, you're like, when do I use these blood vials? Because I don't have a lot. Um, there's a bit of confusion there, so I get it is frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I was going to hate the system. Um, I actually didn't mind it too much because I feel like you do build up a bit of a stash of them. And then the other thing I found is I don't think I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I died from running out of blood vials. Like I would say basically all my deaths in the game were from not healing quick enough, so getting hit like multiple times without taking a blood vial, but actually like running out of blood vials, like getting down to zero and then dying. I actually can't really think of any times that happened. I don't know if that's the same for you guys, but
I
I
think
don't think I was burning through them extremely quickly.
yeah, it's not. I don't think it's like in. It's not that it's one boss fight that you're getting down to 20. If you're using 20 boss blood vials on one boss fight, you're probably not ready to fight that boss. It's
Yeah,
more so
exactly.
if you try a boss multiple times. Like I found it in some chalice dungeons
Yeah.
where some of the high level bosses were just genuinely difficult and you had half your health. And I would use like 6 or 7 blood vials per boss run, but then try that same boss 15 times. You're gonna have to go farm some. That's why I found in
Yeah.
the late game, if you get into that chalice dungeon stuff, it could get a little bit frustrating. But I think for the base game, at least, it was mostly fine. But I while I don't see it being too much of an issue, I don't really see what it brings to the table over just your classic Estus Flask system.
Yeah, I guess
Demon
the
Souls
idea
had
was
the
just
same.
to encourage you to be aggressive, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Demon Souls had the same system though, right? It was consumable.
Yeah, but Demon Souls doesn't count because that game is like every. It's so easy.
Oh, really?
I mean, it depends. If it's your first Souls game, obviously it wouldn't be easy. But
Yeah, right.
I think it's if for you, it's gonna be the last Souls game you play. You're gonna absolutely breeze through it. So I think it's fine. But yeah, no, Demon
Uh,
Souls did have that system, but Demon Souls was slightly different in that the healing items had like different values basically. So you could get like a crescent moon grass that was really good, gave you all your health back, versus your stock standard ones that gave you a little health back. So I would just save all the really really big ones for boss fights, and then throughout the world fighting common enemies, you'd get small ones. So that I would say that system's probably a little bit better, but again, does it bring needless complexity? I don't know. There's a lot of things to it.
I mean, in the end, on your first playthrough of Bloodborne, you will at one point have to do sort of a blood vial run.
Yeah,
In the beginning, there's that classic Central Yharnam one up
yeah, with the
past
two
the
ogres.
troll dude. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's the one I did.
And I think at the end you do the pig one in Nightmare of Mensis, right? You get the two pigs, and you kill the shadows of Yharnam, and you get like a shit ton of blood.
I don't
Like
even know. I don't even know that one to be honest. Could keep
oh,
my eye out for that one.
I lived there in the platinum run, dude. I was like getting up with those chalice dungeons. I was like, I'm gonna get up like 20 more levels. Anyway, but yeah, I think it was a controversial system, but it doesn't get in the way, I think, of the game in
Yep,
the end.
yep, I agree.
Yeah. I also just want to before we kind of move on, I just want to ask, what do you guys think of the trick weapon system and the weapons in general?
Ridiculously good. So
Yeah,
good.
Yeah.
they're I think, and like with how the armor doesn't the stats with the armor don't really affect too much in terms of damage reduction. They've really tried to narrow the combat and that sort of stuff down. They kind of lessening the RPG elements and really focusing on, and the positives that come out of like it just makes it more refined. But the trick weapons, I mean, fantastic. The ones like Ludwig's holy sword. Yeah,
That was
that's
my
Ludwig's.
weapon.
Yeah. Like but you use both. It's not like a gimmick. Like you use
Yeah,
both
Yeah, you do.
things at different situationally, so it works.
yeah,
Yeah, I found I'd use the the light attacks for mobs, and then every boss I was switching to the heavy version.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the thing. That's the beauty of it. It's not a gimmick, and I think Bloodborne is FromSoft's most stylish game, and the trick weapon system kind of leans into that a lot. Like it just looks so fucking cool, but at the same time, there's substance to it. Um, as you said, each trick weapon has its own kind of use case, and I love comboing between using your normal one and mid combo pressing L1, and then
Yeah, I was
switching
going to
into a
say
trick.
that.
Um, and the combos can get really, really smooth, look really, really cool. And the fact they were able to apply this across such a broad range of weapons, I think even though the number of weapons probably don't, like the count probably isn't the same as any of the Souls games or Elden Ring. I don't know if that's the case, but it kind of feels like that way. I think the the range, as in from what from like the absolute difference between two different weapons, is the best in Bloodborne. Like
Yeah, they
it's
went for a
yeah,
quality over quantity.
100%. Like the whirligig saw, the katanas. I switched to an arcane build, and used a holy moonlight sword, from the DLC. All great stuff.
Yeah. I yeah, it really feels like they just tried to narrow down the pool of weapons a lot, but really make them meaningful. Do you guys know? You guys know this game better than I do. Are there any weapons that don't have the trick feature?
Mm.
They're pretty much all.
I
Yeah,
don't
no.
I don't think so.
So
Well,
like
that's.
pretty much every weapon is two in one.
Which is crazy. Like the uniqueness of that is just ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
I think that's why this is definitely up there as in my top FromSoft games to platinum is because one of the achievements is to get all the hunters' weapons, and just that encourages you to go out and find them, and you just discover like each one is so unique and just so like it makes me want to keep coming back to the game to try out all these different builds because you can tell the care that's put into them.
So have you ever tried in like an arcane build, James?
No, I'm too shy. I
So
don't-
the Mikolash, how he has that ability that
the
shoots
auger
worms.
of rage.
Yeah, you can use that as a parry. It's ridiculous. It's so good.
Is this after beating Mikolash, or can you do it?
I
Can you get it early game?
I don't think it's early game, but I was using it in my new game plus plus run, and I
You
was
can pick
using
it
it.
up in the lecture building. The lecture building is where you can get that.
Okay. Yeah, and I was using a Holy Moonlight Sword, full arcane build with all those side abilities, and I was just using that ability to parry, and it was so much fun. Really.
I
Again,
need
like
to do it. Sorry, you go, James.
yeah. No, like people that like love the game and play the game heaps don't even realize that that's like that sort of part, like those sorts of playthroughs even exist. Like that's it's for such a narrow game, it's so in depth with
Yeah.
that sort of stuff as well.
I
Yeah.
feel like I need to do a playthrough more focused on parrying. I feel like I didn't use it too much apart from the certain bosses where you're really encouraged to do it. But there's all those like other parry weapons. Like we'll talk about the DLC later. But like there's what you can pick up machine gun. Is that for parrying?
I don't think you can parry with that.
Ah,
I never found the use of. Maybe I'm wrong, but I never found like. Are you talking about the like minigun?
like a minigun.
Yeah.
What?
How much would you have to level blood tinge for that weapon to be viable? Like
But I don't understand how it works. I haven't tried it. I should look into it.
I know, like how much ammo does it use?
Better
That's true.
use like I watched a video, I think it was on the Gatling gun one. Yeah, you just got to
Yeah,
get those was it you press up on the D-pad
yeah,
and you
yeah.
use one blood vial to get 5 quicksilver bullets and you like those that's where it's only viable. You got to get like 50 blood tinge. But it looks fun.
It's the
It's doable.
minigun
Nuts.
build.
It's so nuts.
Yeah, it's so
I,
good.
I want to talk a bit about yeah, how the game kind of progresses. So you get through Central Yarnum. You beat maybe you beat the cleric beast, but you definitely beat Father Gascoigne, and then you move through. You get to Cathedral Ward, and then I feel like the game splits off a bit. I ended up finding myself down in Old Yarnum, and
First.
yeah, straight after going through.
Did
Um, yeah, Mark.
did you so I just wanted to know about that. Like you just said maybe you beat the cleric piss, maybe you don't. I loved about this game there is a ton of optional stuff, like a ton of just
Yeah,
completely missable optional stuff.
I feel like the cleric beast is very hard to miss.
Yeah, yeah, but in general, like it's easy to miss some of the later areas. I think
Yeah,
there are some.
definitely.
There's a boss fight on the roof of the Forbidden Woods. Like it's a specific NPC quest line that you could like. I didn't get to on
I
my second
forgot
playthrough.
about that.
To beat the true final boss of the game, I really feel like if you're playing blind, there is a 5% chance you're doing what you need to do to get to the true
Yeah.
final boss of the game. Um,
Yeah,
There's
well, I
no
didn't.
way. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely didn't. Um,
Yeah. Even in Central Yarnum, like so many of the sewers and the NPCs you can find, you
yeah,
will miss completely easily.
yeah,
yeah, I know there's supposed to be some like little girl. I missed that whole quest line.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gascoigne's
Um,
daughter.
okay. So yeah, these
Yeah.
are the things I think I need to like kind of look up how to do some of these things and do another run. But
Yeah, yeah. Bloodborne is easily one of the
yeah,
most replayable games because, like, I'm
also
not. I don't want to spoil too much, but I think James may know what I'm talking about. There's like in terms of the blood horror aspect of it. There's a quest line that leads you to a specific thing at the very late game, which is just so gross, and I can't believe I don't know how I missed it the first time. Well, actually, it's really easy to miss. But I was like, damn, I cannot believe this was in the game. Another thing is, in Old Gianum, I didn't even know this until a week ago when I was doing a little bit of research about Bloodborne. There is a way to make it so that the guy doesn't shoot at you.
okay. So wait, can we pause there? Because I that's exactly what I wanted to talk about with Old Yarnum. Is that this game has so many, uh, I would call them holy shit moments. And the first one is when I walked into Old Yarnum, just like kind of chilling, just walking in, and some dude just starts firing at me with a machine gun.
Yeah,
I love that so much.
He
it's
gives you a full monologue and oh yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. He says like you shouldn't be here, and you're like, nah, I'm coming in, like get out of here. And then he starts firing at you with a machine gun. I was just like, what is going on? This is nuts.
what's crazy about it is that FromSoft doesn't usually do set piece moments like you would see in your like regular action game. That felt like an actual set piece moment. You walk in, oh my god, there's dialogue, and then someone just starts shooting you. But then it still
Yeah,
retains that FromSoft flair,
It's like
which is it's
Call of
not
Duty.
but it's not like obviously directed like Call of Duty, but in the sense that it's just fucked up what's happening.
well, that's the thing. Is it's in any other game, this would be a cutscene would play, and then your character would get shot at, and in the cutscene, your character would like hide behind cover or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But in this game, you just walk in, and then all of a sudden, just these machine gun bullets are flying at
you've
you.
got to deal with it, and there's enemies coming at
Exactly.
you, all that sort of stuff. It's
Yeah,
perfect. It's like a FromSoft set piece. They hit different.
yeah. So yeah, that was Old Yarnum, and then um, something interesting about Old Yarnum, I feel, is like yeah, you start to get a bit more of an idea of what's going on in this world. So you're in this place where, um, as far as I can tell, they had like a scourge of the beast, right? Like the beasts kind of started running crazy, so they burnt down the whole city to kill them all. Is that right,
Well,
James?
it was the discovery of Ashen Blood, which is anyway, without going too much into
Hit us,
detail, it's like
Go into
it's like
detail.
do it.
well, that was the whole thing. So you know how Bergenworth found the old one's blood in the Chalice dungeons, and then the Bergenworth College split into two. One was like Lawrence and Willem split off because Willem believed that they should use the blood and to ascend humanity and try like heighten your intelligence, and then Lawrence started the healing church, which he wanted to use the blood to heal people because like it was healing all sicknesses. And then, so they started. I think they started in Old Yarnum. It is something called Ashen Blood, which essentially the blood they were using was poisonous, and that's when the beasts started. Was then they realized that whilst the blood could heal all sicknesses, it was slowly turning everyone into beasts. So that was like the first case of them trying to heal people, but then them realizing that it's also poisonous. Ashen
Yeah.
blood.
So and
And
they burnt the city deliberately. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah, they
I
close it
think
off.
the Healing Church didn't want it to come out that their healing was also turning people into beasts. Again,
Ah,
that brings in the whole. That's why hunters are there, because they want hunters to. It's like a censorship thing almost. The church wants control, and they don't want people to think that the blood's turning people into beasts. They want people to keep using their blood,
And
so they exterminate. Yeah,
and the other interesting thing about Old Yarnum is that the hunters that are shooting at you are basically defending those bees, knowing that they once were human. I think.
yeah, they're the nice
yeah,
ones.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're kind of the villain in the scenario, which is kind of cool way to flip it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Again, like that just throws as a first-time player, you're like infinitely confused, but also just so perplexed on how like what you were a part of, which again just builds alongside the atmosphere and everything. Just you're just so absorbed. I found at least on my first playthrough.
no, I agree, and I think that's what I was saying earlier. Is in the sense that you don't like it. It's pretty hard to pick up that full context that you just talked about. But this idea of you walk into this place, you're told to go away, the whole place is burnt down, and you get this idea that it was done to stop the spread of the beast. Like you can pick up on all
Yeah.
that kind of background very easily. And it kind of just works with the themes of the game, like this world where everyone's gone insane, and you feel like you just kind of understand half of what's happening, and you're picking up just enough to understand the basics, but like you know that there's so much deeper lore underneath it.
Yep.
Um,
And
yeah,
then that, but that's what the like that's why FromSoft is so perfect, because it doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't make you feel like a baby, because they put a video game, and what it is at its core is a video game first. So you're
yeah,
the mechanics and the play, and then if you are interested, if you enjoy and have a passion for it, then everything else comes with it, and that you replay it and you delve deeper into it. But they're just self-aware enough to realize that you're playing a game for a game, and I feel like that's what almost encourages you to lore hunt more rather than being told a story straight to your face for a 2-minute cutscene.
yeah. It's so immersive. Like you just feel like you're in a real place, trying to piece things
Yeah.
together. Um, yeah, and then so the game, I think it does open up from there. So you go through to some of the next areas, and the next one I want to talk about is you kind of end up in the Forbidden Woods, and then you find your way through to Bergenworth, and I feel like that's when the game really starts to the story kind of really starts to go in a different direction to where you thought. So you're in the Forbidden Woods. I don't know if you guys found it. You probably did. You see those little like alien looking dudes
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
first time.
The celestial mysteries.
Yeah, and you're like, what? Like,
Yeah.
what are
I
these
thought it
things?
was about beasts.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
When did
yeah.
aliens? You're like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah, and the snakehead guys as well. You're like, whoa, like, what's happening? Um, and then eventually, you work your way through to Bergenworth, and you're encountering these like hideous like fly monster things, like, and they have just like hundreds of eyes all over their head, and they're like jumping on you and stuff. And at the same time, I think this is kind of the point where you start picking up some items with descriptions about how Master Willem. Um, this is where you start seeing item descriptions that basically talk about like growing eyes on the inside of the brain and stuff like that. Is that correct? And you start to pick up this idea that like these people were doing something weird. They were trying to advance humanity in some kind of way, but it's resulted in these just twisted monsters that you're seeing everywhere.
Yeah. No, exactly that. It's like they want to ascend. So I feel like if you have eyes on the brain, then
Yeah,
you can speak to the great ones, or you can understand, like try to conceptualize their sort of version of the world. It's very like Eldritch, very Lovecraftian. Just with there's always a bigger fish, almost like overlooking your reality. And that's what Master Willem thought, that eyes on the inside of your brain or the inside of your skull is going to get you to understand that. It was all about knowledge. You just wanted more knowledge.
yeah, and I think like that just kind of goes further and further. Like you eventually go to the lecture hall and you see these people that like that they were once like students, um, but now they look like slugs. And like I didn't particularly, again, I couldn't pick up all the background, but I'm getting this idea of like there's there's these different factions trying to advance themselves, or like kind of ascend into gods or whatever, and they've somehow turned themselves into these like freakish monsters. It's the same thing as you go up to Upper Cathedral Ward, you start seeing those alien kind of looking monsters again. You just get this sense that like you start to bring in those Lovecraftian elements and start to understand that like there's all these different factions doing these weird experiments, creating these strange creatures, and then depending on kind of what you do first, or maybe you have to do Rom first, but you either encounter Rom or you encounter Ebrietas, and then you start to understand kind of the role of the Great Ones, or that there's these kind of like godlike like Lovecraftian beings at the center of
It's
the
like
whole
a
thing.
cosmic horror. Like it just completely
Yeah.
switches gears.
Yeah, exactly. It goes from like this simple kind of like hunting beast to, oh, now we're in the midst of like, this cosmic horror with these like giant, freakish, like disgusting monsters. It's
And it's
such a
just
cool, yeah,
it's paced so well. Like, and then
yeah,
that's when you start finding the umbilical cords, and
yeah,
you've refined the old like Hunter's Workshop, but like the actual one and it's confusing, but everything just starts lining up, but then not at all at the same time. It's just
yeah.
it's so
And you
good.
have, and then I talked about holy shit moments before. I had quite a few written down, and some of them that kind of happen around this point in the game is I got abducted and I got taken to a jail. I was like, what? And I thought that was supposed to be the path forward, and then it turns out that was just like a dead end, and I was supposed to go somewhere else. I think that happened before Forbidden Woods. Um, so that was just so cool. I was like, oh my god, like this enemy killed me, and then all of a sudden I'm in just some completely random location. I have no idea where I am, and like 10 hours later I end up in that same place. Through progressing the story. So that was one. Another one is kind of when you walk down to that building where the amygdala is, but you're not supposed to be there yet, and like the ghost of it picks you up and kills you. But then the massive one, and I think everyone would agree, is when you kill Rom, and then you start seeing those amygdala just everywhere around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's but like the little Easter egg though with that, right? Like if you get enough like Madman's knowledge and shit, what's it called? Like the your insight.
Yeah.
If you get it's above 40, like even if you're in the early game and you get 40 insight, you start seeing or you start hearing the baby cry, and then you also if you get 60 or something, you see the amygdala before Rom. You start seeing them
Oh,
around.
right.
Yeah, which is like hectic. Like they just included that um because like that's the I guess the Master Willem side, which is you're just essentially going mad, but also being able to communicate with the Great Ones. You're getting closer and closer. Yeah. But those moments are just so like, what the hell is going on? Especially when you go to Yahagul like the first time after the Blood Moon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so cool. And then especially when you return to like Cathedral Ward for the first time, and you just start seeing these things everywhere that like you just couldn't see before. It's so it's just like it's so creepy, and it's like, what the hell? Like these things were here the whole time and you just couldn't see them.
Yeah, it's hectic. It, oh, this is what I was meant to bring up. I wrote this down earlier. So with with Rom, Miyazaki said it was his favorite boss in Bloodborne. By the way, I'm not sure if you guys had heard that.
Fun fact about Rom, I actually I played Bloodborne on release before I was into FromSoft or Souls games at all. Like I played a bit of Dark Souls 1, bit of Dark Souls 2. But I was very young and I fell off them because I was like 11 when I played Dark Souls 1 and I just couldn't get past it. The boss that broke me was Rom. My first ever playthrough of Bloodborne in like 2016 or whatever it came out because I played it on release. The boss that broke me was Rom. That's what made me put it down until I picked it back up.
Like
He's
just
so
too annoying.
annoying. I think my at the top of my Google search was how to cheese ROM. I think
Yeah,
I
people
remember.
talk about how easy the boss is. I don't care. I've platinum Bloodborne now. That boss is still the most annoying, and there's a Chalice dungeon version of him where it's the
Oh,
same
that
boss
one is so
in a
funny.
fucking room, in a little room. It's ridiculous. It's so bad.
So
No, it's
is this the part where I get to say that I was surprised that the bosses weren't that hard in Bloodborne.
Yeah, I mean, like the I think we'll probably get into, I guess, the weak points of Bloodborne later, but
Well, no, like now, like what do you think about the bosses?
yeah, I think in the base game they're kind of weak. I wouldn't say um, they're a great boss lineup, but anyone who's played the DLC know that they kind of maybe pointed that as a they noticed that as a point of issue and very quickly addressed that in the DLC because the DLC
Yeah,
bosses are incredible.
yeah,
But in
I wanna gush about those later, but I
yeah,
100% agree with you.
but in the main game, I mean, like there's the Celestial Mysterio boss, there's Mikolash, which again it's a cool concept, I guess, but I guess very structurally and from a gameplay point of view, I
it
found that a
sounds
very
like
annoying
that.
boss.
It sounds like they wrote them all down and like conceptually, all their boss ideas are freaking awesome. But then, yeah, maybe the development side, it didn't come through.
I was really like I hand on heart think the two best boss fights in the game are probably Father Gasconi for where you're at, like from a like it's the start of the game. It's a very good starting boss, kind of like the way of you can
Yeah,
Nichiro and Sekiro. Like, compared to the late game bosses, mechanically speaking, the ones in the late game are way more complex. But for where you're at, it's a great boss fight, and then also the Hunter Gorman at the end. And the thing those two bosses have in common is that they're kind of humanoid boss enemies. And you look at bosses like Lady Maria. I feel like they really should have done more of those bosses. I think those that suits the gameplay of Bloodborne really, really well. At the end of Eileen's quest line, you can fight an NPC hunter in
hardest boss in the game.
yeah, but those sorts of bosses, I feel like those humanoid enemies would have really suited Bloodborne. I wish there were more of them. I think although a lot of the bosses were really, really cool, a lot of them seemed very similar in archetype. I don't know if that's a hot take, where it's sort of like a big dude that has blades or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think
Mark, did you end up paying the PvP at all?
No, I think I missed the boat with that.
Yeah, I think
If
people like to solidify your point. I think people were raving about like Hunter on Hunter, like
yeah,
that
yeah,
sort of.
those ones where they've got the same. Those are the peaks of the game. Some of the NPC boss fights in Bloodborne. Um, but yeah. Overall, I think the boss lineup could have been a lot better. Given, I think from a design point of view, they're all great. But as I said, mechanically, a lot of them felt played out. They kind of felt similar as you went through.
I think
Like
that's
you said,
my
yeah.
yeah. Sorry,
Sorry,
James,
Josh.
you go.
Oh, all I was gonna say was like you're saying Gascoigne is was a great beginning one. It's like having that and Cleric Beast are the perfect two starting bosses because you got one of the beast bosses that introduces like how to with bigger bosses, and then Gascoigne was a hunter. So it
Mm.
kind of like those were the two that were thrown at you, and you could figure out like the core mechanics, which is why they stand out definitely.
Oh, and
Yeah.
Amygdala is an awful boss fight as well. My God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say that when I think back on the bosses of the game, I can't distinguish that many of them
Yeah.
um, from one another. I think part of that is because surprisingly, I feel like I killed most of them. A lot I managed to kill on my first go, and I don't say that like, oh, I'm so cracked at these games. It's probably just coming from like having done Elden Ring and Sekiro. I think the bosses in those games are a lot harder. Um, but a few of them, yeah, quite a few I did manage to kill on my first go, and then a couple, probably only took like 2 or 3 goes. And especially some of those beast bosses, they felt really similar. Like if I
Yeah.
think about Cleric Beast and Bloodstarved Beast and Vicar Amelia, even Amygdala,
And Dark Beast Pal as well. I found that
yeah,
very similar.
exactly. If
Yeah.
I think about all those bosses, I I can't really think of what their movesets were and how to distinguish them. Now, part of that again is because probably I killed a lot of these very quickly, so I didn't really get a chance to get familiar with it. But I feel like my tactic was basically just dash behind them and whack them.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, I think that made them feel quite similar. Maybe Amygdala is a bit different because I do remember that one had the jump attack, and then I was kind of whacking it in the head. But a lot of them just felt like just try and get around them, just dodge through their massive like claw swiping attacks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure people who are more familiar with the bosses would get pretty mad at that take because
No, no, no. I mean,
there's probably a lot of difference in the move sets, but I just feel like it wasn't. I don't remember that.
no, but for big enemies in all Souls games, I mean, I think the tactic is the same: get to their ass or stay at their feet, sort of thing, or dodge left.
Yeah.
Like it's very very similar. I think. I mean, I would say I'm pretty familiar with the bosses. Maybe James, do you agree or disagree with this take? 'Cause you'd be familiar with the bosses as well.
No, I do agree, and it's like any big project, like a game like this, it's almost like they got to weigh up their priorities. And the main mantra of the game is their atmosphere and the vibe they want to give.
Yeah.
So when you think about like Vicar Amelia, she's actually one of my favorite bosses because like just the introduction and the screeching and just like the sheer. But then, yeah, when you boil it down, the moveset is pretty much identical to the other big beast bosses. So I think when they were planning it out, their priorities were more focused, I think, towards like what are we telling here, not like Sekiro. It's like how are we going to try like screw with the player character here, just get him to be on his feet. I don't know. It's yeah, I agree. I completely agree though.
I think the other thing I found was that even though the bosses were in some cases a bit of a like they were easier than I thought they would be, and I got through them pretty quickly. I wasn't mad about it. Like I just enjoyed going through the levels so much. And I found most of the challenge in the game, at least the base game, was from the levels rather than the bosses. Um, that I didn't mind just kind of getting through a boss really quickly because, I don't know, like just pushing forward further into the game was was what I was so hooked on. Like I just wanted to see what does the next part of the world look like. And so not having to like hit my head against the wall fighting a boss for like hours on end, I was actually pretty happy with that. And I know that a lot of Souls fans probably disagree there because they want to be that they consider the bosses the highlight of the games. But for me, the highlight of Bloodborne was actually just like exploring the world and traversing through the levels. I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys agree with that.
I think Bloodborne is the game that probably has the least reliance on the bosses. If you look
Yeah,
like a game like Sekiro, of course, like that game has
yeah,
many advantages, but at the end of the day, it kind of makes or breaks with how good the bosses are because there are only so many standard enemies that you can test your skills on in Sekiro, and you kind of want to test your skills on the biggest baddest enemies because that game's completely revolved around the combat. So a game like that, I think, is way more make or break on the bosses compared to something like Bloodborne, which, as you said, like the atmosphere, um, is a main driver, and also I think the combat just in general, Bloodborne is still very very good. But yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's where maybe like that's why it might be a bit disappointing, like you say, Josh, with the bosses, because the idea of the Bloodborne combat, like Sekiro, is that it rewards aggressive gameplay. So you're coming into these bosses super hot, being like, all right, like this is gonna be quick. Like I'm gonna like I need to be super on my game, and it ends up being a bit more breezy. Then you're kind of just left like,
Mm.
oh, okay, like yeah, you don't
Yeah,
really get incentive.
I like the Sekiro comparison because I actually find like replaying Sekiro that I just want to like speed through the levels and just get to the bosses.
yeah,
Like the bosses are 100% like why you play that game. Whereas Bloodborne is actually like the opposite. Like I was just having so much fun taking my time through the levels. Like I would find the boss door and just deliberately not go in because I knew that there was more of the level to explore. Um,
Yeah,
so that just
definitely.
like complete opposites. I mean, it's more similar to Elden Ring's Legacy dungeons. Like I loved exploring those as well. But I think the bosses in Elden Ring were also more memorable. So yeah, it is kind of the opposite of Sekiro for me in terms of what I enjoy in the games, and they're both great.
well,
Uh,
that's why Sekiro has a boss gauntlet, right? I think they realize.
Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
true.
Oh, but
But
I
yeah,
like finding the yeah. Look, Bloodborne is 10 years old. We have to remember as well. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah, this is just on the base game because we do have to acknowledge the DLC bosses legit are
yeah, yeah.
banger after banger after
We'll
banger after
we'll
banger.
we'll get there. We'll get there. I mean, I would also consider Bloodborne like I would find it similar to Dark Souls One in that Dark Souls One I got a lot of enjoyment from exploring the world, and some of the bosses. Like, there's some good bosses in that game, but
You
I
didn't
wouldn't
like
say
Fire
there's
Asylum
anything
Demon?
stand out. What was the one? There was the centipede demon, the one that just like glitched out and vanished when I was playing.
Oh,
You were watching me
I
stream,
was
Mark.
like,
oh, yeah.
that's
I never
actually
even did that fight. It just glitched out and just disappeared, and
uh
I won the battle.
no, that's actually people cheese it that way. Oh, what's the boss called? I can't believe I forgot it. The James, the one that walks on lava.
The centipede demon,
Yeah, the
right?
centipede demon.
Oh
Yeah,
wait,
yeah.
no. Oh wait, was it that one or the one where you find those
The one,
cool clothes
It wa-
from?
no, it was a centipede demon.
Did the other one glitch out for you? Because that people actually cheese that one to not do it.
The fire asylum demon? No, I think I
No, no,
killed
no,
that one.
not the Fire Asylum Demon.
on a Quelaag?
No, no, no. You run through the end and you get those like ah. Sorry. There, move on. It's
Yeah,
it's like it's a really really big boss, like a super big boss in lava right before.
that was the one, right? Wasn't that called centipede
Before the
demon?
bed of chaos? I think that's the centipede demon.
Yeah.
Oh no no no! I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
The discharge.
yeah.
Oh
Ceaseless
no, not that
discharge.
one.
Yeah,
Not that
that's
one.
it.
No, no, not that.
Did you not cheese that?
No, I killed it properly.
Okay, fair
Wait, really? Oh, okay, well.
Yep, I whacked its arms or whatever.
Um,
Yep. But yeah,
yeah.
so yeah, it's similar to DS1 in that like just getting a lot of enjoyment from going through the levels more so than the boss fights in this game.
And
Yeah,
Um,
honestly,
you're right.
I prefer that in a Souls game. I don't know if this is a hot take. I prefer peak level design, peak atmosphere, peak exploration over peak bosses
yeah,
any day.
I've
Any day.
always said that I love the games for the worlds and the exploration
And that'll be
more so.
that's the reflected through like we'll talk about it later, but that's reflected through my rankings low key. Like
Yeah. And
yeah.
the other part I love is of these games is the progression, like the feeling of growing stronger and stronger. And I think Bloodborne does that really well.
Do you like them putting bosses? Oh, actually, I'm really only thinking of the Shadows of Yharnam, but them PS1 did it too. They'd put bosses
I love that.
later in the game as just regular enemies.
I love it.
Um, do they do that with Shadows of Yharnam?
Yeah, they do. Yep.
Where do they
In the
come
night,
back?
And then
right before Murgo's wet nurse, there's like a
yeah.
heap of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Oh, with the pigs.
And they do it in Sekiro as well.
I don't mind when they do it.
Oh, actually, Sekiro they don't. They just repeat like the.
I
the
do.
raid. Do they do it in
Oh,
Sekiro? Kind
oh,
of.
I think.
They do because those like mini bosses become regular enemies, don't they? Kind of. Do
The
they?
Miss Nobles. There's a bunch of Miss Nobles. That's all I remember.
Um,
Um,
no, I personally like it because I get that
Makes you
maybe
feel
people
stronger.
yeah people may think it's lazy. I think in DS1 maybe it's a bad example of DS1 because they just literally copy and paste it in the
copy
most
paste
inorganic
Taurus
way.
team.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's just so inorganic. It looks like a
And Capra
mod.
Demons.
But in Bloodborne I really liked it because it's just so cool as well. It's just Shadows
I
of
think
Yharnam design is so cool.
when it's done right, it makes you feel like you've come a long way and you've got way stronger.
Yeah, I agree. But it would be nice to have it like presented organically at the same time,
Yeah.
which it does in Bloodborne. So I think it's done really well in Bloodborne.
Yeah. Now I want to push forward a bit through the game because I also want to talk about the DLC. You're getting towards the end of the game, and the things that really stand out. So you go through Yargul. That was pretty cool. Um, oh, and I already talked about Upper Cathedral Ward, but I love how you find that key. Like I found that organically, but I love that you have to like drop onto that ledge and then you kind of like fall into that cage to get the key. And then I read the item description. It said something about Upper Cathedral Ward, and I was like, oh, that's that door that I found like 10 hours ago. It has to be. You go up there, you put the key in the door, and you're like, yes, I knew it. And you've unlocked this whole new area. So I just love stuff like that in these games.
You've had the most organic playthrough of Bloodborne. I'm very jealous, very envious.
The only thing that wasn't organic was Mark told me when I was going through Forbidden Woods, he was like, have you found Canehurst? And I was like, nah. And he was like, just explore as much as you possibly can because you're going to
You
you,
can't miss
you, you
Caneshurst. You can't miss
yeah,
it.
he was like, you got to get to Canehurst by this point. You know, you've missed the entrance, and I was like really struggling to find it because I was looking in the lower part of Forbidden Woods. It's actually in the upper part, and eventually he told me it's like a it's like a 30-second run from the lantern in this direction. So eventually I did that, found the entrance. I love how you have to go through that like swamp and then you come back around to the starting area. You get your summons.
Yep.
I also
Oddly
found it
addressed to
hard.
you.
I also found it hard to get to Canehurst once I had the summons because it said you got to go to Hemwick Lane, and I went to the Hemwick place, ran around in circles, couldn't find anything, and then I like just happened to walk into the right spot, and then the cutscene triggered. But I thought I was like looking for something, and it turns out you just need to walk to the right spot, and then a cutscene will trigger.
Have any of you seen Nosferatu that came out earlier this year?
The new one?
Yeah,
The new
Nah.
one?
yeah,
Willem Dafoe.
yeah, that one.
Need to-
That literally has a Caneshurst moment. It's ridiculously cool. They legit stole it off Kane. I don't care that there was an original, and maybe they stole it off Bloodborne. They legit did. It was so cool. I was like, so excited when
Something I
saw it.
also love with Canehurst. I don't love the run back, but when
the
you get
run
to
back-
the,
oh.
it's terrible.
Oh.
But you get to the boss. I'm blanking on his name now. What's his name?
Martyr Ligarius.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Martyr Ligarius. And you kill him, and then I picked up. It's like his crown, right? Is that what you get
Yeah.
off him?
Yeah.
And I read
Yeah.
the item description. It said, I can't remember what it said, but I think it said something about seeing things which can't be seen or something like that. Put it on, and just like I thought, you unlock that new area behind the throne, right? Or do you have to sit on his throne or something? I can't remember. But
I think you just put it on,
secret.
right?
Yeah,
And a cutscene plays.
The old king's crown is said to reveal illusions and expose a mirage that hides a secret. What visions did he see sitting
Nice.
serenely upon his new throne?
yeah, that's right. So you put it on, you walk to his throne, and then all of a sudden, you unlock that area behind, and it's just like, I just love when they reward you for stuff like that. Like you just read the descriptions, it kind of hints at what you need to do. You think, oh, probably need to do this, and you do it, and it actually works. So satisfying.
Extremely.
But yeah, so
Sorry, real quick. I kind of missed
Yeah.
that from Soft Games. I think they've kind of strayed away from those things a little bit.
Oh,
Like-
but like the Abyssal Woods though in Shadow of the Erd Tree, that's like in
the DLC, the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. I will agree brought it back, but I would say that maybe Dark Souls. Oh, maybe I'm wrong because Dark Souls 3 does have that gesture thing to get to the dragon place. But maybe base Elden Ring didn't have as much as I would like it. Like, like finding a key and then the key goes here sort of thing.
I think Bloodborne does a good job of like hinting at what you're supposed to do. Like the Canehurst summons hints at where you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
The crown hints at the fact that you should put it on and walk towards the throne. I feel like in some places it's a bit too obscure. Like I think with Elden Ring the most egregious one is probably you're supposed to do the prayer in front of the Marika statue to get in Shadowkeep to get through.
Yeah, that's
to that.
ridiculous. Yeah.
That's so obscure.
If I,
Like,
I only got that
so
because I
difficult
got
without
messages. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I only got it because of messages.
They knew though. They knew that people would be on the internet.
Yeah, it's just annoying if you're trying to play through blind, and especially if you are not connected to the online features. It's so obscure.
What about crafting that specific pot to take down those those big pot
Oh.
dudes?
But I
Ernest
feel like
Golan.
I think that there's a hint about that. I remember.
Maybe, but
I think I
like
picked up a note or something.
yeah, I barely interacted with the crafting system in Elden Ring at all. So I was, like my mind was not in that
Yeah.
place.
No, I feel like there's definitely a hint to do that.
Well, my hint was a message because someone went up on the
Yeah.
ledge, had a message throwing a pot. I was like, okay, which pot would
Yeah.
it be? And there's a pot that specifically says it's for those guys. So okay.
You can throw any fire pot in, but those ones
really?
do more damage. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I didn't even.
But I will say, even though that's hinted at, it is such a terrible. Those bosses suck. But anyway, we're not here to talk Elden Ring. What are you saying?
I knew. No, I'd say that I knew this would happen.
Yeah.
Trip
Um,
myself.
I do want to, like, before we get to the DLC, just talk about the final part of the game. Dude, the Nightmare of Mensis is so cool. So it's a little bit annoying how you have those enemies that like drive you into a frenzy if they look at you too long, and they can still do it after you kill them, which is really annoying. But
Yeah,
You have
The
to.
level,
Sorry,
yeah,
you have to stock up on those. I forget what they're called, but runes.
yeah.
Yeah. And so if you get the right Carthor runes, like you can really boost up your frenzy. So that,
Oh, right. I was
yeah,
relying on. There's like it's not antidote, but it's something similar. I can't remember what it's called.
full frenzy.
Something you can drink.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I thought the level design in Nightmare of Mensis was so sick. Like it was like Central Yarnum in well, maybe not, but it was like quite complex level design. But you keep finding elevators to go up and down back to that
Yeah.
one lantern.
Yeah.
Um, and my one more holy shit moment was in Nightmare of Mensis. You get, I think it's a fair bit in, and then you go across this bridge, and then you have to like drop down into this kind of like little, I don't know how to describe it. It's like this area where there's like two wooden platforms. They're separated by like a little plank you can walk across, and then there's like one of those frenzy enemies on the other side. It took me forever to kill him without dying, but eventually I got him. And then if you keep going, you get this lever, and you pull the lever, and it plays a cutscene, but I had no idea what it did. Do you guys know the place I'm talking about?
Yes.
The brain of Mensis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so by complete coincidence, I happened to go back to the area down the bottom of the Nightmare of Mensis, and there's an elevator that takes you down into pitch blackness. And I hadn't been down there before, and I found that elevator, and I was like, "Oh, cool! Like, what the hell is going on?" So I'm just going down this elevator in like pitch blackness. I was like, "This is, I have no idea what's going on. I feel so lost, but this is really, really cool. Like, this is just insane." And then you get to the bottom, you're just walking on like literal blackness, and yeah, the brain of Mensis is just sitting there, and you can kill it. And then I like obviously realized, oh, that's the thing I released by pulling the lever. And this all happened completely organically. It was a bit of an accident that I happened to find it, but it was just like what the hell?
I didn't even find that on my first playthrough. So I was on my second playthrough, and it probably hit even harder because I'm thinking, oh, I'm just doing a platinum run now. I'm just breezing through the game, all that sort of stuff. At that point, I hadn't done the umbilical cord thing, so that was my main thing, fighting the main boss. And I'm just going around, and like you, just find this random area, find this lever, and like, what the
Yeah,
hell have I missed? What is going on? And then there's this little fucking brain. It's a massive
yeah.
brain.
I
And
can't even remember what it gives you. I don't know if it gives you anything good, but I just remember
Yeah,
being so like mind blown about the whole experience of it.
yeah, it's
again,
crazy.
like the weird the you use a gesture in front of it, the make contact gesture, and you get like a rune.
Oh, see, I haven't
Um,
even done
Really?
that. I don't think I've done that. Have I
yeah.
done that?
Really?
Oh, I
It's
just killed it.
yeah.
I just killed it.
I don't know how the hell you put that together. And in the Pale Blood Hunt, the guy talks about it as well, like how he figured it out. But like because you get the make contact gesture from the upper cathedral ward, and it's like there's some like tiny little hint of it, but you use it in front of it, and you got to hold it for like 20 seconds,
Oh my
and then
god.
you just get a rune. Yeah,
It's
it's
like
pretty
no one
ridiculous.
but FromSoft would do that.
My favorite, just this is kind of diverging a little bit, but my favorite like kind of from soft moment like that is in Dark Souls 1 where you have to curl up like a ball in the bird's nest to take you
Oh
back to the
yeah.
Haunted Asylum. I find that so cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And little side note.
Yeah,
Well, it's
but
like
that
you gotta wait for like 10 seconds to get to Archdragon Peak in DS3. I don't know how like you do it. Like if I thought to do a gesture there, you just like stop after 3 seconds. Like it's just so.
and that's the thing I love about these games is just they're not scared for you to miss stuff. Like people I think get upset about how obscure all these things are. But it's like it's there for people to if they discover it naturally for them to just be like literally just mind blown. Um, and then it's also there for like knowing that people are going to talk about it on the internet, they're going to come together and share the secrets and like just kind of be collectively mind blown. Like, oh my god, I didn't believe, or I didn't realize you can do stuff like that. So it's just so cool that like you can easily finish these games and miss all this stuff, and then it just makes it so much more replayable
Well,
with the fact that you can go and do these things.
yeah, I think from soft games like have a real sense of community to them. Like the freshest example that comes to mind is like the release of Elden Ring. Like, when Elden
Yeah,
Ring first came out, that was like the first FromSoft game that had come out apart from Demon Souls where I was like a proper FromSoft fan at that point, so I was just like, really excited for it. Like it
Yeah.
was my first release sort of thing, and all my friends were really excited for it. And then those first like month or two of Elden Ring, where everyone's going through the game, and we just like after like a 10-hour session, like you get on a phone call. Oh, what'd you find? What'd you find? Oh, how'd you do that? How'd you do this sort of thing? Oh, it's so good. It's legit. Nothing beats it.
It's just so cool. But it's
Not at
like that
all.
with your friends, and then
Yeah.
it's also like that with every person playing the game and
Yeah,
everyone
that's
just
right.
talking about it on the internet.
Yeah, it's really it's so good.
But like when Shadow of the Erd Tree came out, like that,
Yeah.
those 7 days because we played it so well. The 7 days of just like non-stop like communications between.
Yeah.
What?
Uh,
Fine, talk to me.
It was so good.
what'd you find?
It was so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, that was my highlight from the Nightmare of Mensis. Mikolash, everyone I think agrees that was kind of crappy boss. I really like Murgo's Wet Nurse though. I found it just so unsettling.
Hmm.
And then how when you kill it, it like takes a few seconds for the baby to stop crying, and um then you get the what is it? Prey slaughtered, or
Well,
it might
no,
be
with
something
the
else.
Nightmare of Memphis, it was Nightmare
On
Slain,
yeah,
which is
Nightmare Slain. Yeah,
which means you've killed a great one.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just I think the environmental storytelling, I didn't fully understand what was going on, but you have I now know it's the Queen Yarnum. You have that like kind of ghost standing outside the boss room, and she's sobbing, isn't she? And
Yeah,
there's a lot of items and stuff that you pick up around that area that hint at this idea of like sacrificing a child or for a great one to like make a great one be born. I think you also get that same theme coming through in Yargul when you fight the one reborn, and it's just like again, when I was playing through, I didn't have all the pieces kind of put together perfectly, but you can understand the basics of it, and it's just so disturbing.
every great one loses its child. I think that was what was echoed.
Yeah, yeah. So like, is it that that someone has to like give a child as an offering to kind of have the great one be born? Is that the idea?
I, yeah, I think it was
Because it's Queen Yarnum's child.
every great one. It says every great one loses its child, and then yearns for a surrogate. That
Yeah,
was the
that's
quote.
right. So the baby is the surrogate for the great one, right?
Yes, I think that's.
It's just so messed up and disturbing, but it's like it's
Yeah,
cool that you can kind of piece together the basics of it enough to
yeah,
just be like,
exactly.
holy shit, this is so messed up.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly. So I think with Murgo, so Murgo was the baby. Um,
yeah, yeah, and the
the
boss is the wet
formless,
nurse.
yeah, Odin, like the formless one, is the great one. I think he impregnated Queen Yharnam,
Hmm.
or I think that was the idea, and then, or full well knowing or not knowing that it was gonna die. I don't know, like the again, like FromSoft, like the physics and nature of reality and time are just so warped, and they're fully
Yeah,
aware of it, but they can just do what they want to kind of
yeah.
paint a picture.
It's
But
almost like this. Well, yeah. I mean, even with all the idea that the physics and the reality and it's all warped and confusing. It just ties in so well to the theme of like the game being like a nightmare where sanity is being lost and things don't
yeah,
quite make sense in some ways, but that just enhances the game's overall theme and atmosphere.
exactly. Although it's just like, yeah, I agree.
So that's one of the last bosses in the game. You eventually then come back and you fight Gurman. Mark already talked about how much he loved Gurman. I'm just going to put it out there. I didn't really like him because I found that he kept just like jumping backwards, and that really annoyed me. But anyway, I'm not going to debate that.
Mm,
Gurman
I like
wasn't my
German.
favorite boss.
Technically,
Yeah.
technically, Murgo can be a final boss as well if you choose to let Gurman
Yeah,
Oh,
and
that's
your
true.
yeah.
yeah.
True.
So it's kind of
No.
three final bosses
But I
technically.
don't know if you fought the Moon Knight presence, which is the great
Yeah.
warning.
So I was going to say I was aware that there's this secret ending where you fight the moon presence.
Mhm.
I I knew that it involved getting three umbilical cords, but I didn't know where they were and I didn't want to look it up. So I only found one of them, and I knew I wasn't going to get that ending. But then you kill Gurman at the end of the game. The moon presence like descends on you. I was like, oh shit, I'm going to get the boss fight, and then it ate me. So I was a bit sad. It was a cool
Look,
ending.
so you haven't fought the moon presence
I have not
yet.
fought the moon presence.
What do you think about the moon
It's,
presence, James?
oh, like it's a fight in Blood.
It is a fight in
No,
Bloodborne.
it has
Is
this
it not
really.
a good fight?
No, I don't think it's a good
It,
fight. No,
it's
no. It's
it has
You go, James. You go, James.
it has this really cool move where it just drains all your health down to one, and you got to like was it rally, like the rally mechanic?
Oh
You just
yeah,
sort of keep
that's cool.
smacking it. Yeah, but if you're really far away and it drains you down, like you just go down to one health. I don't know, like it's a bit gimmicky, but the mechanics are probably subpar. But the fact you're fighting a great one who's like the host of like it's just kind of been dictating your entire reality for the whole game. I think that's
Yeah,
more the spectacle of it. But the actual fight itself's like, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where the problem. I think there's a big disconnect between the stakes and what the boss actually is. Because the boss is fairly like it's a lot
That's
easier than
really
Gurman. It's a
I
lot
think it
easier
has
than
to be
Gurman.
coming off of Gurman though, because Gurman's tough.
yeah.
Do
Like doing those back to back would be
Actually,
really
I
challenging.
actually don't
That
even
was a
know
tough
what
one.
happens if you beat Gurman and lose to the
No,
moon presence.
if you beat Gurman and you die to Moon Presence, then when you just go back in the fog wall, it's just the Moon Presence. Once you
Yeah.
beat Gurman,
Oh, okay,
it's
so it's not like
Yeah.
Radagon on
No,
list.
it's
it's
not.
kind of
It's
like
not.
in Dark Souls 3 when
Okay.
you beat the three lords and then you get chucked straight into the dancer fight and you're like, holy shit, there's no way I need to fight like Yorm the Giant into dancer.
Oh, okay.
But then you like, you can just do dancer.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just another fight from the same lantern.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a bit better then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
But then that
So
gives you a different ending, and you become like a little fucking slug man, and that's it.
yeah, but so the ending I got was you basically replace Gurman as kind of the host of the nightmare.
Yeah,
Is that right?
yeah. So the moon presence was controlling Gurman and like keeping
Yeah.
him in there. You killed Gurman, so now it just controls you. That's why it ate you, and it's like, oh yeah, technically the moon presence isn't hosting. You're the host, but the Great One is
Yeah.
like hosting through you. Kind of like how the Great Ones host the Nightmare of Mensis through Mikolash. I think. Yeah. He's
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah. Anyway.
Who was the great one hosting it through Mikolash? Was that Cos?
No, the Brain of Mensis technically counts as a great one. I'm not sure if
Oh, okay.
that was the one actually hosting it through. Or Murgo's Wet Nurse is also a great one. I think that's why. So it was through Mikolash.
Right.
I don't know. Don't take my word for it. But I know that Murgo's is like the Wet Nurse is a great one. The Brain of Mensis is a great one. I don't know
Yeah.
who, or I don't know if it's Odin because it's his child. Again, it's up to speculation, I think, really, unless I need to read some more item descriptions.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's what the Pale Blood Hunt hones in, is they much prefer this lore to Dark Souls because of how open ended these sorts of discussions are. Like you don't really know. It doesn't like even if you dig deep enough, it's still up to interpretation. And the author was saying that that's why he loves Demon Souls because. I don't know much about the lore. I don't know if you do, Mark. Like
Nah.
the King of okay, King Alant, whether he anyway, I don't know. But it's very open ended, and they want you to do that because they want you to piece it together, and it makes you
Yeah.
feel more mature about it.
Yeah. Well, I want to finish up by talking about the DLC because it's such a good DLC. This is yeah, like it from all the Souls DLCs I've played. This one, I don't know whether it's better or on par with Shadow of the Erdtree. It's so hard to compare, like in general, Elden Ring to this game just because of the differences in the size. But this was like so tight, like so tightly designed, so well done. Let's start with the bosses because Mark, you've already said how good the bosses are. What's your favorite from the DLC?
Ooh. Probably Lady Maria.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Ludwig's
Lady
up there as
Maria.
well, though.
And who?
Ludwig's up there as well, like the from phase
Ludwig's
one to
so good
phase
too.
two. So, yeah, it's just,
Yeah. So Lady Maria, I think, is so cool. She feels like she feels like a proto Melania, but I mean, I say that she feels like they made Lady Maria, then they that evolved into Sister Frida, and then that evolved into Melania. Um, but that fight with Lady Maria, so clean. I think it's the best, like you said, Mark. It's the best hunter on hunter fight in the game.
yeah, for sure.
It feels like a duel.
And it's just like, yeah, I don't know, hunter on hunter fights. There's something different about them. Just like they've got kind of access to the same sort of abilities and tricks that you have up your sleeve with the trick weapons, with the gun parries and all that sort of thing. And Lady
Yeah.
Maria is like the absolute refinement of that formula, I think.
She has some really cool combos
Yeah.
that are really satisfying to dodge, like a bit more like kind of Dark Soulsy Elden Ring style combos that actually she swings her swords around quite a bit, and you've got to like I feel like a lot of Bloodborne was like quite easy. You just got big like beasts swiping at you, but these felt like more like strings of combos where you actually need to dodge correctly in the right direction, to make sure that you emerge in the right spot to be able to like not take damage, but also get the follow up hits.
Yeah.
I wrote in my notes about a year ago. Lady Maria is definitely the inspiration for the dance-inspired fights and pretty much the whole of Sekiro. Probably not true. In order to succeed in this boss fight, you have to control the pace, not her. I feel like that's when that's when it kind of shone. Like, but that's what a dance style fight is. Is like just that sort of pacing.
Yeah. It's so
Just
good.
And also,
not breakneck, yeah.
the soundtrack I think is the best in the game. Personally, maybe next to Ludwig, but that sort of like because she's a 3-phase boss. Each phase, it just like this crescendoing, like I mean, she shoves her swords into her throat and rips them out, whilst like this whole choir is just it's yeah. Like you could even if you took out the combat and the mechanics of it, which are near perfect, you're just in awe. Your jaws on the floor. She's the fourth best FromSoft boss I have down.
Nice.
Fourth best, nice. Oh, we should go through those. Let's not forget to our rankings as well.
We're gonna be like
Get
this
to
is
the
gonna be the
deal.
longest podcast ever.
Oh
Um,
jeez.
but yeah, so the other thing I wanted to say about Lady Maria is the build up to her is so cool. Like you go into the research hall. I thought the research hall was some of that like just really cool from
So
soft
good.
level
Yeah,
design.
very, very good. A very good
Yeah,
area. I mean, all the areas are really good, but that one in
Out of
particular,
10.
it's a highlight of the
so it
DLC.
feels so uneasy going through it.
It's yeah, exactly. And they're all like you've got all these I don't even know how to describe them. Like sick or like they've been experimented on, like twisted, like they've got these giant things on their heads, all these people, right? Or things I don't even know. It's just so creepy. And they're all just begging for Lady Maria to like save
Well, it
them.
was it was after the Hamlet massacre. She was tasked with trying to like do the eyes in the skull thing. So that's what that was. That's what her
Yeah.
experiments. Yeah, trying to line the skull with eyes.
And it's just so unsettling and creepy. But it also has just really good level design, I think, of how you're kind of just working your way up. There's all these side rooms. You can unlock shortcuts as you go. And then you get to the top, and then you hit a lever which changes all the staircases and unlocks new paths that you weren't able to get on before. Um, it's just awesome level design and like really creepy atmosphere. And it just
There's
builds
a
up to the
mini
boss.
there's a mini quest inside it, which is where you got to
Yeah, yeah.
return. Yeah, it's just
What's the
so
quest?
Oh, I vaguely
um
remember this.
bloody. I'll
There's a
find it.
dude at
Hold
the
on.
bottom. You have to give him items from the
Yes.
brains you fight, right?
Oh, I
Yeah, so
remember that guy. Yeah.
I think her name is Adeline. Yeah, she's in a you got to bring her 3 brain fluids, and then
Right.
oh well, if you get her 2, and she'll give you the balcony key, but then if you yeah you find her a third one, and she'll give you just I think it's just a rune or something.
And
But
is there anything good on that balcony? Does that unlock like a new area? Because I remember seeing that and not knowing how to get through, and then I
no,
forgot
it
about it.
gives you it's the black sky eye, which I don't. It just brings you to like it's just a little mini garden area.
Okay.
But it's just an item. Like it's like a it's kind of like a quick item that uses Quicksilver bullets, just does damage. It's nothing big, but yeah, again, another part of an area that you won't really find on your first playthrough. It's just
Yeah,
there. I found like the dialogue, her dialogue was just so eerie because it's like weird, but just so off, just so perfect in the lead up to. Well, frankly, the Celestial Emissary is. Oh, sorry, no, the living failures.
yeah,
Actually,
living failures.
um,
It's a pretty lame boss.
lame. I didn't mind 'em. Like you just get through them.
Yeah.
Your area.
But yeah, I think definitely the worst boss of the DLC. But
But my
um,
God, she is such a good fight. My jaw's on the floor. I called her the baddie of Bloodborne. I mean, I was trying to explain it to. So,
Nah, baddies
so-
Eileen the Crow.
Eileen the Crow. Isn't she like 70?
Why are you saying that like the bad thing?
oh
Yeah.
my god!
Time is warped.
I'm
Time is
kidding.
I'm
warped.
out.
Anyway,
Yeah,
but
Cut that, cut
then
that, cut
from
that.
there you get to the fishing hamlet, which I feel like is my favorite area in the game.
Oh, Fishing Hamlet's also really, really good, yeah. But they
Yeah.
really do not miss. I even like the
Have the
kind of
freaking sharks.
I was waiting to bring that up.
I have I love when FromSoft games do it when they kind of remix an existing area, not like going to like the real Round Table Hold or the Hunter's Dream. I'm talking about like in Sekiro when you come back to the Machina Castle and it's all there's a whole it's getting invaded sort of thing at the end of the game, and they kind of do the same thing with the nightmarish Cathedral Ward at the beginning. I even think that area is really really cool to go through. Uh,
Yeah,
um,
it's true.
um, and so like all the areas in the DLC are just like those three areas are banger after banger after banger, like ridiculously good.
Yeah, it's something, and they do it so well with like walking. I remember that classic. Like your first initial thought is, oh, they've just copy and pasted the Cathedral Ward for the DLC, but then it's just like they have a very particular idea that they're trying to hone in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other thing I did want to talk about the rest of the bosses. Obviously, we've given a lot of love to Lady Maria, but I feel like I have to give a lot of love to Ludwig too. You know, the first phase feels like you're fighting this kind of rabid beast, um, and then the second phase he straightens up and he pulls out the Moonlight Greatsword, uh, and he starts doing these just huge like combos at you, like shooting those laser beams. It's just such a sick fight, and it's so intense.
Top notch. I mean, the whole pacing of that, like like first phase into second phase, alongside the soundtrack, alongside like it's just so perfect. 10 out of
And
10.
I love after you kill him, he's just sitting there and he's like kind of begging you. And I can't remember what you can do. There's a few things you can do. I think I just killed him.
He
Um,
asks you if I think it's what the hunters, redeemers for the church or something, like how his hunters are doing. Because he was like a second generation hunter after Gurman and
yeah,
create, yeah, and like yeah, you can literally give him answers and stuff. Like as a dead head, you can
yeah,
dictate what it says just from.
And then when you like after you beat him, he's got the one of the best weapons in the game in his head, the Holy
yeah.
Moonlight Sword. It's
I was bummed out that I didn't have the right build for it. It's an arcane weapon, isn't it?
yeah, I know, but I just shifted my build into I just fully from that moment on just started
Just put
leveling up
everything in
Arcane.
arcane.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Can't respec though. I hate that about Bloodborne.
that's a problem. Yeah, that's a shame you can't.
Uh, I kind of I mean because it's a game that's meant to be replayed multiple times. I guess on New Game Plus and stuff, but I mean I don't. Maybe we won't get into this discussion because maybe it's a broader question for FromSoft. I don't necessarily think respecing like having basically as many respecs as you want in like Elden Ring is a necessarily good thing for these games. I kind of
Yeah,
like
I
it. You're
disagree.
one and done.
I like having
Well, it's a discussion for a different time, I guess.
yeah for a different day, but I'm a fan of respec.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Um,
I mean,
and then
it would be cool to just try out the Holy Moonlight Sword. Maybe it being locked so late in the game is a bit of an issue, to be fair. But I decided to
yeah,
commit to it.
yeah, I would like to do a playthrough with it. Maybe a New Game Plus would be good. I also want to talk about Lawrence. I know I think Lawrence gets a bit of hate because, and to be fair, I remember when I started the fight, I was like, oh, it's just another beast fight. Like it's already kind of said how a lot of those blended together. But I love that at the kind of as you get to the second half of the fight, he loses his legs and he starts like crawling around on the ground, and he's like almost like kind of pathetic, but it's like really scary at the same time because he's leaving this like trail of fire behind him. He's like kind of chasing you around. Um, I don't know that that was a surprise to me, and I thought that was really cool, and a good way to mix up those beast fights.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he gets his hate from maybe people didn't have the right build or they were a bit underleveled, but like the hitboxes, the lava and stuff. But everything else, I think, is fine with it. Like if you once you realize you got to, I think it's his left leg or maybe his right leg. You just sit by, like you're fine.
Yeah, and I might be remembering wrong, but I'm pretty sure the soundtrack goes really hard with like the strings once he's crawling around. Is that right?
Yeah, it's really sick.
I actually found that to be a pretty difficult fight from memory. I can't really remember, but I remember struggling with it a fair bit.
It is, and also the run back's really annoying because you have that guy in front, and you have to wait for the door to open every time.
Mm.
Yeah, the
Uh,
boss runs of Bloodborne really took no prisoners.
there's some bad ones, and that's I think one of the frustrations, one of the few frustrations with the game, is there's some pretty bad boss runs, and that made Lawrence more frustrating than he should have been. Um, but still, overall, I think just that second phase of the fight made it pretty cool. Maybe not even for the gameplay of it, but just the spectacle was exciting.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. He's people most of the time do him after Orphan. So he's kind
Yeah,
of like the finale.
that's interesting. I feel like Orphan was a good finale because, oh my god, what a fight!
So good.
Orphan is such a classic Bloodborne boss in just the sense it's so like creepy and disturbing. He's like throwing a placenta at you. It's like, what the hell? Like, how do
He's
they
just like
think of this stuff?
screeching. And the first
Yeah,
phase, the music in the first phase is almost like somber, like it's a bit like melancholic and weird. You got like the sad strings. It almost reminds me of like
yeah,
the beginning of a Nolan film, and then it just explodes into like this. Oh, it's also paced perfectly. Well,
yeah. The first phase feels like you feel like you're putting this like twisted creature out of its misery, even though it's like kind of just been born in front of you. It's and like the setting of it, just like on this like lonely kind of like grey beach.
yeah,
I don't know, the whole vibe of it is just like it feels so surreal.
incredibly.
But yeah, that
Mechanically, it's a
second
great
phase
fight
is
as
pretty
well.
crazy.
Yeah.
What's that, Mark?
I was just saying mechanically, it's a great fight as well. But
Yeah,
like a lot of the moves, like they're tough to dodge, but it doesn't feel unfair or anything like that.
The hitboxes are pretty like refined. You can
Yeah.
like dodge where he like he, sw- he swings the placenta, but he has like kind of a string attached to it. If you can dodge through the string, you don't get hit. So it's like a very specific hitbox. Like it's good. It's really and you learn from it.
yeah, yeah. And that second phase where he starts, he grows wings, right? He starts flying
Yeah.
around. Um, yeah, that I was having a bit of trouble with it, and then I think I googled something about it. It turns out you just parry him. That made it a lot easier. But it's so satisfying pulling those parries off.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I think the parry system in Bloodborne, like, it surely it's got to be up there in terms of the best. Who the hell thinks of a fucking gun as a parry? That's
So
ridiculous.
cool.
That's so cool.
It's what you said earlier. It's just style.
Yeah, it's legit style. You just get like this old flintocky old pistol, and you just shoot in between an attack, and you can grab their fucking soul and pull them out. It's so cool. It's
Yeah.
and the fact that like almost anything is parryable in the game is also awesome.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much everything.
Can you parry the amygdala? Actually,
No,
Probably
no.
not.
imagine. That would help a lot actually.
my god, the Chalice Dungeon amygdala is
Well, that's
just
yeah. It's
like
because I was on like a one of those chalice. I forget what they're called. There's like proliferated. I forget what it's called, but
where
specific
it halves
chalices.
your health.
Yeah, yeah, it halves your health, and then I needed for a specific rune sort of thing. Like I was farming basically to get the best blood runes, and then you have to fight this amygdala, which has a ton of health, and there are 3 summons available in the room, and I usually don't summon, but I shamelessly was summoning, and it was not helping, so I just looked up a cheese for him, and now I can beat any amygdala that I want, because the cheese hasn't been patched yet. You have to get Ludwig's holy sword, and then you have to stand by its tail, and bait the jump attack, and then when he's in the air, hold R2, and it'll do a jumping attack right on his head as he lands. And you just spam that. If you want to know how to cheese amygdala, that's how you do it. Because I
You say
actually,
it hasn't been
I'm
patched
gonna write
yet.
this down.
well, yeah, yeah,
Did you
because
say it hasn't
as
been patched yet? Because it hasn't been patched yet. It's never going to be patched.
yeah, it won't ever, yeah, it won't ever be patched. It's
Yeah.
right. And like,
Yeah.
because if you say by its tail, it won't do anything. You just have to bait out the jump attack. That's how you damage it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a bad thing. You need to look up a patch for this particular boss. Some of those Chalice Dungeon ones are just completely unfair.
Yeah, that's actually one part of the game I didn't engage with was the Chalice dungeons. I thought it was because they my impression was they were like procedurally generated and not really relevant for the game. Sounds like there's like really good rewards in them, and they actually are kind of crucial to the lore, which I found out after I finished the game. So
Well,
maybe I should have engaged with the systems. But
yeah, if you do it, if I'm correct, James, correct me if I'm wrong, but the root chalices are the ones with specific seeds and stuff where maybe you don't need to interact with that. Like I interacted with that I literally just wanted to build the most optimized build possible.
yeah,
Because I wanted to extract as much value as I could from the game, I guess. Um, but the main chalice dungeons you go through will lead you to a specific boss you need for a trophy sort of thing. Like, I would definitely interact with those.
okay,
And the good thing about that is that they're not scaled to your level. So, the chalice dungeons will be exactly the same. Even if you go to New Game Plus, like they don't get harder
oh,
because
that's
you go to
good.
New Game Plus.
Okay, yeah, so
So
that'll be worth on the new game. Yeah,
as soon
that's
as you go New
good.
Game Plus, just dive into it. Well, yeah, I would definitely
Okay.
do it. And some good stuff. I mean, it's good to listen to have a pop music podcast in the ground, just in the background,
Yeah,
just grind through them. I found them quite fun.
Mark's a sucker for him. Just
Yeah,
so
I love
average.
them. I love them, dude.
I think then on next playthrough.
I like the idea of them, but my god, like remember the watchdog of the old lords, I think?
Oh, there are some bad ones. There are some
Oh
but
no,
there's
I'm just being all lame about it, but yeah.
no, but there are some really like it's not. There's some really artificial difficulty ones, not because they're like they have a complex move set or anything like that. It's just they've got a ton of health and will one shot you. You just have to deal
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah, it's nuts. I learned a lot about myself in that part of the platinum run for sure.
Got deep and introspective.
Yeah. I'd like oh, I think because look,
You
and
grew some
again,
eyes on the inside of your brain.
yeah, no, I just also like I play it on a really old PS4, so it's probably around 20 frames a second.
And the
Like,
loading.
yeah, exactly, like 45 plus second loading times, and it's just
Yeah.
like,
Ouch.
oh my god. But no, I won't let it discredit the game in general. But yeah, it's an interesting experience. You got to do it, Josh.
Yeah, I think at some point I'll do a new game plus run through of Bloodborne. And it'll be worth trying those.
Yeah. Okay. Damn, I'm gonna play tonight.
Well, we've been going for a really long time, so I want to wrap this up. Just before we finish up, and let's not go too in depth on all the whys, but bang bang bang, Souls rankings.
All right.
Uh,
You go
Machine gun.
first.
but
I got them right.
I'm going first.
Yeah.
Actually,
Spit 'em out.
Okay. I'm going.
Obviously, I want to know where Bloodborne fits in, but
I'm going one Sekiro, and okay. I'm just gonna point out this changes. This could change on a weekly basis. If I've said something different 2 months ago, it's because just my feelings have changed. Like I would have watched a YouTube video or played some more of a specific one. Like so, these are very volatile. Um, So I'm going to go 1 Sekiro, 2 Bloodborne, 3 Dark Souls 1, 4 Elden Ring, 5 Dark Souls 3, 6 Dark Souls 2, and 7 Demon Souls.
Wow.
So pretty good for Bloodborne. That was number 2, right?
Yeah, but like I would say, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 1, and Elden Ring, they can change very easily.
Yeah.
It depends. If we're talking about games like with tight like level structure that all interconnected, then like when we've just spent a whole podcast talking about it, and it elicits that response, and so I naturally think, oh, I prefer Bloodborne and Dark Souls 1 over Elden Ring, because those are
Yeah.
just two different types of games, right? It ends up what you feel like. You know what I mean? It depends what
Yeah,
vibe you're
if
in.
we were doing this right after Shadow of the Oak Tree drop, you'd probably put Elden Ring higher.
Yeah, I could have easily put it 1. Like, you know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
changes. It depends. But
Yep.
personally, I think I've made it clear in the past. I'm definitely a fan of the tight
You like
interconnected
linear.
level
Yep.
designs over the big open worlds.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think everything else is pretty self-explanatory. I don't think Demon Souls is very good. Period. Not even as a FromSoft game. I think Dark Souls 2 is not very good for a FromSoft game, but still a good game. Like still a great game, actually.
Yep.
Like an easy 8.5 out of 10 sort of thing. But I think Demon Souls, like I would probably rate that as a 6 or 7 out of 10. Like
Damn.
I'm not very high on Demon Souls.
Neither of us can argue with you. Neither of us have played it.
No.
I mean, you'll see. I think especially after
You
playing.
really,
If
you
you go
really
from
want
Elden,
to
huh?
you really want to give me a PS5 over a 6 out of 10 game?
You have to you have to experience it for completion's sake.
You have to play it, James. You'll get at least like 200 hours out of it.
And it has the most frustrating because actually I've platinum Demon Souls. It's the most frustrating platinum, bro. Don't get me fucking started
you're
on the
not
platinum
selling
Demon Souls.
Oh god.
It's
You're not
dude. I'm not
selling
even.
it.
There's one NPC fight which is ridiculous. Like I feel like you have to cheese it, or you can buy it. I didn't. I actually ended up doing it normally, but like, because you need all rings and you have to defeat a really hard NPC to get the ring. And I'm not talking. It's like, it's really messed up what you have to do it. But it's also you can buy it, which is crazy.
With real money. Or
With
just
re-
in-game.
no, with real money.
What?
Yeah, they did it. They did a
In the
remake.
remaster, in the remake.
in the remaster. Yeah,
Oh, that's absurd.
it is absurd. So
Pay to
obviously
win. Did you buy it?
swear to God, I didn't. You can. I will go through my transaction history. I got the
He
platinum
definitely
legit.
did. He definitely did.
James, your ranking.
All right, okay.
Noting that you
move.
haven't played Demon Souls.
No, exactly. One one is Sekiro. Two Elden Ring. They also interchange, but Elden Ring's the better game. Oh, anyway. But Sekiro, is obsessed with. 3 Dark Souls 3. 4 Bloodborne. Again, they interchange. Anyway, 5 Dark Souls 2 and 6 Dark Souls 1.
Yeah. I was expecting
Oh.
PS2 number 1 for you.
No, I look after. It makes me think after today, like where Bloodborne sits. I'm more of a sucker for dark fantasy in terms of like I just loved. You walk out in High Wall of Lothric and it's a world that's just eating itself. Anyway, and it's just a lot more approachable than Bloodborne. But maybe that's because I'm playing it at 20 frames a second. But yeah, that's my feelings.
You know what?
Um,
I'm also more of a fan. I would have thought I was more of a fan of Dark Fantasy, but the world of Bloodborne just drew me in more than any other of these games.
Yep.
But I was thinking, maybe I'm wrong because I haven't read much Stephen King, but Bloodborne seems like it could be a Stephen King creation. No, I feel like he'd be frothing it.
So yeah, no, that's a good point. His Stephen King stuff is more like horror set in like kind of small town America, but I think that is part of it in that I do love horror, and Bloodborne has so much horror. So I'm not so much into like the Victorian, like in general, like fiction that's like in this Victorian era. But I think the fact that Bloodborne brings in all this cosmic horror, that's what draws me into it so much.
It is like the most niche scope it is like hectic, and they just pulled it off. Like when you think
Yeah.
about trying to create a cosmic horror in a
Yeah.
Victorian style, like England,
Yeah.
what the? Imagine them trying to pitch that to Sony.
It's crazy.
I
Yeah.
think that's what puts it over the line for me for from the other Soul series games. I just love the uniqueness of it, and I think like Dark Fantasy's been done a million times, so I'm not as hot on it. But I get that FromSoft does it in a very unique way.
Yeah.
Sure.
Anyway,
Yeah. I'm.
Josh,
Yeah. Yep.
you're
So my ranking, I'm gonna cheat because I'm setting the rules. Um, but I I would say Bloodborne and Elden Ring. I can't decide which one I like more. I
You have to
might.
decide. You have to decide. Just do it now.
Okay.
Personal vibes.
Yeah. Gun to my head, I probably have to say Elden Ring just because of the scope, just because it's so massive, both the game and the DLC. But like as I said, Bloodborne is the number one for me on like the just the atmosphere, the vibes, the world, and I do appreciate Bloodborne's really tight level design over Elden Ring's open world, which I do love. But on replays, you can get a bit sick of the big fields, and you kind of just want to get to the legacy dungeons, which are the most fun part of the game. Whereas Bloodborne is like all killer, no filler.
Yeah, that's a
But
good
on
way
the
to put
other
it.
hand, Elden Ring has more build variety. It has the better bosses, so
Yeah.
it's a massive toss up for me. Elden Ring just feels slightly more replayable, and it's just a bigger game. So I'm going to give it to Elden Ring. But Bloodborne, really, 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 really close number two. Number three, Sekiro. I love Sekiro, but as I said before, highlight of the game is the bosses and playing through the levels. I kind of just feel like I want to speed run through to the bosses. Um, so that's why Sekiro is below those two. But otherwise, it's like so good, and the combat system is just so incredibly tight. Um, Number four, Dark Souls One. I love Dark Souls One. It has a bit of jank, but the yeah, the world design's amazing. Number five, by a mile, is Dark Souls 3
how could you?
because it's just too linear. It's too linear, no exploration.
Better
Oh, I
combat
couldn't
than
Linear
have done
Elden
that.
Ring. Better combat than Elden Ring. Better combat than Elden Ring.
Mm.
Oh,
It's
for
like
the PvP.
it's a prototype for Elden Ring, and it's just.
It is better.
I'm
I'm
kidding.
sure
I'm
the
underselling the game here.
PvP bandits would agree with you, Mark. I reckon they all say in turn
But
like
because
PvP and Dark.
Elden Ring can very easy. Okay, I'm not gonna answer it too, but Elden Ring can the combat can very easily devolve into Ash of War spam. You can't. That's
That's
not
true. That is true.
in Dark Souls 3 you have to actually interact with the boss's movesets way more. I think.
That's true. I am trolling a little bit. Like I'm
You
deliberately being
you
mean to
can't
Dark
Ash of
Souls
War
3.
spam like Prime Radon.
That is
No.
I
true.
think
That is true. No, that is true. But for like Melania you can.
yeah,
It
literally.
depends on the Ash War.
That is true. But
Blasphemous Blade.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I am trolling a little bit here when I say Dark Souls 3 is that bad. It's not bad. It's actually a really good game, and the bosses are really, really,
DLC
really
makes
good.
it. The DLC makes it.
Oh,
And
But
Slave
actually,
Knight,
I haven't
Slave
even
Knight
played
Gale
the
is the
DLC.
best Souls boss. Slave Knight Gale is the best Souls boss.
See, you two have played that. I haven't played it yet. I still haven't played the
Yeah,
Ring City. I've played Ashes of Arion though. I haven't played the Ring City.
yeah. Ashes of Arian
quite
Gale is pretty
short. It's
mid.
quite short, dude.
Ring City?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I
it's
don't.
a good like 4 or 5 hours.
I did not like the level design in Ring City. I was just running through it because all the enemies were so annoying. But Slave Knight Gale was awesome. Sister Frieda's really good. Dark Souls 3 does have good bosses, but the game is
All I'll
just
say
too
is
linear and there's no
it's
exploration
linear.
in it.
It's linear because it's that's why it's so well balanced.
That
They wanted it.
exactly. It's a complete
Yeah,
antithesis of Elden Ring, and it's
yeah, but Bloodborne's really well balanced and it gives you a lot of opportunity to explore the levels. Like it's not just that there's one path through the game in Dark Souls 3, it's that the levels themselves are like corridors. There's hardly any
uh
exploration
that
in
is
them.
true. The shortcuts in Dark Souls 3 are there's a really bad one. I forget where it is. But it's like you jump down and this door opens from the other side and it saves you maybe like a second of time
Yeah.
as you
Oh,
go through. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I think yeah. I
Um, no,
realized that
but
the other day.
yeah, the world doesn't really feel connected as well.
No, it's not.
I mean, it's not even the fact that the hub area is set as a separate thing, like a separate entity. But
No,
even
it's that the world is one straight line.
yeah, and the other
Basically.
thing is, it's like you know how in Bloodborne you progress through the areas naturally. When you go through to Dark Souls 3, yeah, it's like I mean, there is that non-linearity where you can go fight like the Crystal Sage area, or go do,
That's true.
or
Yep.
the Abyss Watchers. So
Yep.
there's a little bit like that, but
It's a tiny bit.
there's no non-optional stuff. Oh, I mean, okay, I'm missing.
No, there
There
is.
there is.
There
There's
is.
Arch, but they're not to the.
Smoldering Lake.
They're to the
There
Smoldering
is
Lake and the Arch Dragon Peak. To be fair, so maybe I'm
the
misspeaking.
blood thing is, yeah, in Bloodborne, I just felt like within the levels, there's a lot more room for exploration and shortcuts and things looping around and things like that. And in the general progression of the game, I felt like in Bloodborne, there's many points in Bloodborne where you have multiple different areas you could go to
Yeah.
at the one point in time, and I don't find that in Dark Souls 3. And that's just preference. That's just something I like in these games, is this idea that I can go where I want.
Take it so personally. No. You're just wrong. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. It's yeah.
I get why you
that's-
like it, James. The story's really cool and the bosses are really good.
But honestly, I think at this point, I think Bloodborne. Well, Bloodborne is infinitely a better game, but down to my person, like, what am I going to pick up? Like, if you had two TVs in front of me, oh, there you go, out myself as a console player. That, like, which one am I going to start playing? I would probably go DSO just because it's more approachable. Anyway, but that's all.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So
Well, there we
have
go.
valid lists. We all have valid lists. Just
Any list
opinions.
is valid, unless DS3 is number one. It's really invalid. I'm kidding.
I'm going to
Anyway.
rage quickly.
I said this.
Sorry, go.
I was just gonna say I've been making lots of jokes on this podcast about how no one listened to us, so we can say whatever we like. Like when we hate on Ghost of Tsushima, and this is one of those things where no one's
That was
listening
so funny,
I can-
though.
I can hate on
love
Dark Souls 2.
Ghost of Tsushima sucks.
Oh, come on. You got to give it some sort of break.
Say it again.
I was gonna
Pretty,
when
that's
I
all-
when I listened to that, I was drafting up messages to you guys. I get it. You guys, you were right about everything, but give it a break.
No, Mark, we shouldn't hate on Ghost of Tsushima. We should hate on Horizon. Those games.
Yeah,
genuinely
okay. If anyone
suck
actually likes those games, those are the most like
so bad. So no, sorry, they're not bad. They're so mediocre.
like they're industry placement games. Like, you know what industry placement musician is?
Yeah,
It's the same. It's the same thing. That's what Horizon Zero doing. An industry placement game.
So completely mediocre.
Nice graphics, open Ubisoft open worlds.
The worst voice
Could be
acting
AI
you've ever
generated.
seen.
Yeah, I'm not.
No, I agree though. Ghost of Tsushima is like GTA in Japan, like just that sort of.
I wish it was like
Like
GTA. It's more like Assassin's Creed in Japan.
Yeah, it is.
To be people crying out for it, they just fill the gap in the market. Really, people wanted that, so they did.
They
it.
did.
It's widely
It just
successful.
doesn't make it a 10 out of 10 game because Assassin's Creed is a 7 out of 10.
Well, like you guys said, like if it came out what 5 years earlier, what you were saying, like
Yeah.
would
If
be-
it came out,
Yeah.
Open world games have progressed past that point, I think.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we got to stop hating on this game for this podcast because this was the Bloodborne podcast.
Bloodborne.
We all love Bloodborne.
Blah.
Fantastic. It is. Well, if we want to chat for another minute before we end, like, what do you guys? Do you think there'll be a sequel or a remaster, or what do you think Sony's going to do?
I don't think we'll get a sequel. There's a chance we could get a PS6 remake / remaster at some point. They got to port it to PC one day because it would just make them so much money. But I don't think they'll do a sequel. The best we could hope for is like a spiritual successor. I would
Imagine
think.
like a movie. Someone said that.
I could see
today.
that. I could see that.
I definitely I think it'll
An
be
anime.
I think it'll be a remake for the PS6. I think Miyazaki has said he can only justify a remake in his head if the technological leap is big enough.
Yeah.
And I think from PS6 to PS4, surely it's gonna be like 120 FPS, 4K, and will it be a ground up remake? I think they just realize they can get a lot more money if they do a complete remake, as opposed to just a quick remaster. I don't know, or maybe the code is messed up, like you said, Josh. I don't really know what's going on over there.
I hope they do a full remake. I hope they're really faithful if they do, because some Demon Souls fans don't like the remake because it actually artistically changes things quite a bit in some places. Bloodborne, I think
Yeah.
you need to be absolutely faithful.
Yeah, I think the Bloodborne fan base is a lot more rabid than the Demon Souls
Yeah,
fan base. There's
exactly.
No fucking around. There is no fucking around.
Yeah, I agree. But also, I hope just one day we get this game on PC.
Yeah, but I feel like they'll
can't
have
wait
to
to
do
be-
they'll do a sequel. I think they'll do a sequel.
I don't think they will. I think Sony owns the rights, and From Software wants to publish on all platforms from now on. So I just can't see it happening.
But what about the acquisition stuff? Do you reckon that could play a role?
Sony only bought like a 10% share, so
Okay.
I don't really think so.
Okay.
I
That
like
could
to
be wrong.
have my be beaten to death by a placenta at 4K. That'd be fantastic.
Yes.
They
You
will
want to
not-
beat that little baby
4K.
in 4K?
Um, I was going to bring it up earlier, but when we were talking about Centuriona, but last compliment is just like the graphics aren't actually that good. It is the art
No,
style
they're not. Yeah.
makes it timeless. It is just so perfect, and
Yep.
if they acknowledge that in a remake, then they'll be able to create something perfect out of that. But they need to realize that it is not like what's the actual term for fidelity?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not the
for-
graphical fidelity.
Yeah.
It's the art style. Yeah.
But, yeah, definitely.
No, I agree. Well, does anyone have any closing thoughts?
Nope.
Give it up. Very happy to. We talked about. I mean, we could literally talk for like another 2 hours.
I reckon we're running at about 2 hours
Wait.
now, so
Jesus, that went so quickly.
it did.
Okay, we can touch on the vile bloods and the powder kegs.
Oh god.
No, I'm kidding. But yeah,
Let's save it there. All right. Well, this has
thank you
been
guys.
episode. Yeah, no, James, thank you very much for coming on.
Thank
This was great, and I'm glad you had fun.
Yeah.
It'd be great having you on, James.
Always big fan. You know.
You're our number one fan. I think you're our only fan. I think you're the only person who listens.
Our only fan.
No.
The look, no, don't worry. Oh, I've been showing you guys around to everyone that I've speak to about it. So,
Let's go. Well, I still think you're the only person watching our videos. But anyway,
all right.
thanks for coming on. This has been episode 5 of the Chop It Up Gaming podcast. Please tell your friends if you enjoyed it and made it this far, which, yeah, I'd be astonished. Anyway, rate it 5 stars on whatever you listen to. Like us on YouTube and subscribe. Blah, 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 blah. We are done. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.